All right, so just before I turned on the camera, I wrote down some things I wanted to talk about in this video. And I wrote down some different titles. I had things like Stop Getting Lost in Music Theory and Nevermind Theory, Use What You Know, things like that. I was trying to come up with sort of a controversial sounding title that might grab your attention. But I ended up settling on How to Do a Lot with a Little. And I think that says a lot for what we're trying to talk about. Now, we're talking about guitar here and learning guitar. I'm assuming you're a guitar learner. You're trying to learn how to play and improvise and all of that. That's what I teach at Active Melody. But I do these videos from time to time just to try and motivate you and give you some other ways to think about everything. And so one thing that I get a lot of emails from people that are worried about the stuff that they don't know. And so they're so worried about that. And I'm talking about music theory and all the fundamentals. They don't know that, or they feel like they're short in that. And because of that, they're not able to enjoy the stuff that they do know. And when I'm talking about the stuff that they do know, it could be something as simple as a chord or two, or a simple scale like the pentatonic scale, something like that. You can take those things and you can start building on the stuff that you do know, and the theory will work itself out. Now this is my theory on how it should work, but I've seen the most success when you give somebody a little nugget of information and they understand that one little piece. It's their little micro universe, and from that they can start to build other pieces of information. And that is really how it all works. That's, in the end, it's a bunch of little wins. It's never a big course that you take that solves all the problems. Because the problem with that is you'll learn it all and you'll understand it all, and then you'll forget it all, because it's like trying to learn a whole language by just memorizing every word. It doesn't work like that. You have to start having simple conversations when you're learning a language, a simple little phrase. And then from that you can get a little more complicated, a little more articulate, and before you know it, you're understanding it and you're speaking the language. That's really what we're doing here when we're learning to play. And I think part of the reason that some folks want to get stuck in the theory world is, to be honest, it's easier. If you think about this, when you're just learning theory and information, it's input only. There's no output going. You're learning something. The hard part is when there's output and you have to create something. And so it's very easy to just be passive on that and ignore that. And so I'm trying to encourage those of you that have maybe been more on the input side to switch gears here and look at something basic. I'm going to give you some examples, actually. I'm going to grab an acoustic guitar and play a couple of notes and show you what you can do with a simple chord or a few notes. This is stuff that everybody can do. And you can start making music. And when you look at certain artists, I think of B.B. King, Jimmy Vaughn. These are like, my blues heroes, Eric Clapton, Albert King. They all have one thing in common, where they're pentatonic scale players. And the pentatonic scale is just 5 notes. 5 notes. They've made entire careers out of that. And they've changed the world with 5 notes. And you realize that they've got their own signature sound. And what they've done is they've taken that simple language, that 5-word language, 5 notes, and they're able to put their soul through it. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to help you think about in this video, is to start, how do you take something simple but start to channel you through that? Another thing I should just mention is that I feel totally qualified to speak on this because I'm always learning a new instrument. Right now I'm learning dobro and lap steel and mandolin. I've always got something sort of spinning. And I like putting myself in that position of being the learner, and because it helps me relate to the guitar. I've been playing the guitar for so long, sometimes you forget all of those little things. But I know what it feels like when there's a connection point. And with the dobro, for example, that's a different technical skill, and I just took a simple lick, one lick. I started with that. That was my foundation, and I nailed that one lick, and I was able to figure out how to do it in different keys and all of that. So I know how it feels to be in the position of learning and how frustrating it can be. One other thing I just want to mention, then I'll grab my guitar. Robin Ford said once that he wanted to learn how to play jazz guitar, so he got the Mickey Baker book on jazz chords. And I actually got that book because I wanted to see what he was talking about. And he said he never really made it past the first couple of pages because, Mickey Baker had all of the jazz chords listed out, like basically every variant of a chord, your G, your G major 7, G dominant 7, so forth. And he realized he could take that one page in a book and explore it for a lifetime. All right, so let me grab my guitar here. And now this is something, I'm just going to improvise this. Hopefully you can see that. And so my thought is to take a simple lick. So we're going to take a blues lick. We're going to be in G, and we're going to play 2 notes. That's our note. And so it's actually this note and this note. It's a D and a G, and then I'm playing the G up here. So it's really just a D and a G. Now if I play this, it has kind of a B.B. King kind of vibe. If I were to write that down on paper, you would see D, G, G. Soulless, meaningless, it's very bland. But if you hear, you know, now it's starting to take on a life of its own, just with a few notes. And so what I'm talking about in exploring what you do know is if you take something as simple as 2 notes, that would be something like the G minor pentatonic scale. So we're just taking 2 notes out of that. But if I were to, so I can start to play a little bit of a lead off of 2 notes. You know, I mean, so, and everybody can do, I don't care where you are in your guitar journey, you can play 2 notes. So now let's add a 3rd note. We're just gonna build on that. So if I added this note, which is an A sharp, again, we're just in the minor pentatonic scale. Right? So now we got 3 notes, but I'm singing the blues. And so I could do that in any key because I've connected that back to my G chord shape, and that's how I kind of think of it. So if I wanted to play that in A, I could do it up here and so forth and so on. So even if you don't know how to do that, or if that's not your thing, take something as simple as a minor chord. So I'm taking a D minor. And if I wanted to play that D minor, I look at the 3 notes in the chord, and I look at where else I can play them in different triads. So something as simple as 1 chord, like a D minor chord, if I can learn the different positions up the neck, then I can start doing things like tying it to the minor pentatonic scale patterns. So for example, this chord, the D minor down in 1st position, that would be pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale. So for D minor. Look at that. That scale lives right off of that chord. So I could start to play now. And then I can come up to here and I can go, there's pattern 4 of the minor pentatonic scale. And how did I know that? Well, I never read that in a book or anything. I just figured it out. I could see it. I started looking. When I play a D minor chord, I sit and study it for a while. I look at it and I think, okay, what else is there that I know? And I think about all the D stuff. Okay, I'm playing a minor chord, minor pentatonic. Oh yeah, I've got that right there. So now I can connect those 2, and it's these little wins. That's what makes it all work. And if I came up here, now I'm in pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic. So there's the same lick in pattern 1. So I can start to piece all of that together. And actually, I did a lesson on the 3 different positions of the minor pentatonic scale. It's EP 275. So if you want to go back and take a look at that, you can. Another lesson, actually I wrote this down here, that you might be interested in if this is resonating with you. I did a lesson a couple of years ago actually on taking 4 notes but playing a really cool kind of shuffle blues. It's EP 251. So you might check that lesson out where we limited ourselves to 4 notes. I played them in 2 different octaves, but I played a really cool kind of blues jam, just kind of demonstrating everything I'm talking about here. But that's really what I'm trying to get across in this video, is just to demonstrate that you don't have to have all the background information to start making music. In fact, you're better off, I think, by starting to make music with a little bit of information and building off of that. And then you can go back and understand sort of why it all works after the fact. I mean, at least that's the way that's worked the best for me. And I've seen the most success from that. So hopefully that's helpful to somebody out there. And leave a comment and let me know if any of this resonates with you, or if you've got something, a little piece of information that you've picked up that just helped the light bulb go off and helped you connect the dots. So that's always helpful when we share that stuff. All right, so to summarize this, just remember it's the little wins. It's not a big thing. It's not a big course or a big chunk of knowledge like a whole background in music theory. It's the little wins. That's how you learn to play and grow as a guitar player, because they're Legos. You can build on them. You have to start with one, and then you can grow from there. All right, hopefully that's helpful to somebody out there. I'll see you in the next video.